Books on the Brain.
Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I'm Deirdre,
I'm Danielle.
and as you can tell, we have a very special guest with us here today. So I'm going to do a little quick intro. This is Sanj, also known as Baskinsuns. By day, Sanj is a doctoral student in counseling psychology, studying sex, gender, intimacy, and health through a critical feminist lens. By night, she's still a doctoral student, but she's also a romance reader, reviewer, and enthusiast. You can find her work on TikTok and most other platforms at Baskinsuns or on Substack at Scratchpaper, which, if you're not following Sanja's Substack, what the heck are you doing? Sanj,
Aw.
welcome to the pod.
Guys, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're
Truly
so excited to
delighted.
have you.
This could be good.
I'm
We're
like
gonna have a good
just
time.
bringing all my friends onto this podcast. I'm like,
As you should.
Look, what is the point of a podcast if you can't even have your friends on it? Oh my God, a
exactly.
cat.
Yeah,
There's two.
Oh,
there are two. This is
okay,
one
there's a fourth guest on, guys.
fourth guest and fifth is sitting in the windowsill. This is
Oh
Walnut.
my God.
I
She's
will preempt and say this episode heavily relies on the video feature, so I would recommend watching on YouTube or on Spotify so you can get ample cat time this episode.
yeah. Trust me, she's feeling a little bit like clingy today because I've been busy at work, so I haven't been home super much. So you'll get a lot of cat time today. Drum roll, please. PowerPoint presentation night. Woo! Except for it's morning. But PowerPoint presentation night. This was something I pitched many moons ago.
Several seasons ago.
I was gonna say it was in my dream list of things to do, but everybody is an expert in something, and we've come prepared today to speak about the thing we are experts on. This is very unserious. This is very fun. We are just gonna have goose and gaffs only. But everyone is going to give a little presentation, be little academic scholars, because we are all very learned people.
We are. So I think Sanj is going to kick us off.
Yeah, I'm
So
looking forward to it. Let me share my screen real quick.
Oh,
Make
doesn't
sure you
that
can
bring you back to
really.
COVID? Let me share my screen. It's
So this is a revision of a presentation that I gave for a PowerPoint night a few years ago that actually spurred me into much more curiosity around the Omegaverse.
love.
Um, so this is really like defining some terms, explaining Omegaverse for the uninitiated, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about a legal case associated with Omegaverse that I find fascinating, and then, just close out with some of my ideas and theories around this really fruitful space in campy genre fiction and fan fiction. Just like to start, are both of you familiar at all with Omegaverse? Yeah,
yes.
okay. Nods, gorgeous. I love to see it. Well, for the viewer slash listener, don't worry, we will be defining terms if you are brand new to this space, though truly what rock have you been hiding under if you are completely uninitiated? Anyway, so let's see. Table of contents, we're gonna do some definitions, we're gonna do some history, we're gonna talk legality, we're gonna cover some discourses, all the good stuff. So Omegaverse, also known as A slash B slash O, it's alpha, beta, omega, subgenre of speculative erotic fiction, and originally it was a subgenre of erotic slash fan fiction. So like originally ABO, like this is really between men or like male presenting figures or beings in stories. At this point, it's kind of funny, like it has evolved to become like incorporate straight dynamics, but I have a feeling that it's like always a little bit subversive, even if it is doing some straight stuff. Uh, it's of course erotic, and when the speculative piece of it is that like Omegaverse is sort of a shared world wherein there are secondary gender classifications beyond like male, female, non-binary, agender, so on and so forth. There's a secondary layer of designation where everyone can be either an alpha, a beta, or an omega. These are conceptualized pretty differently, but it's a shared world that like many people partake in and build to their own specifications. Like the author knows, like these are some sort of general ideas and suggestions. Like I'm defining terms, but these are also like gonna shift from work to work, author to author in their own conceptualization. But alphas are sort of socially and even biologically dominant, like large physical build, short tempered, natural leader, sort of like what you would think of as like a sort of trad presentation of like aggressive masculinity. Omegas are, you know, a more trad presentation of like femininity, submissive, gentle, calm, peacemakers. And then betas, they get to be all kinds of different things. Like depending on the world that we're looking at, they can either actually have some of these alpha or omega traits, or they can be like regular humans, or
Mhm.
they can be like a secret third thing. Really is up to the world building, the world maker. So there's a lot of sort of like flexibility and ways to kind of play with these designations. Any questions so far? Cheers. All
No,
right.
I'm locked in.
Okay. Oh God. Okay. There we go. Some other terms that I think are just like valuable to know.
Yeah.
Like secondary sex. So gender is your primary expression of sex in a society. So alpha, beta, omega is secondary. It's layered on top, which means that like you can be male and an alpha, or you can be male and an omega, and male and a beta. You can be female and an alpha, female and a beta, female and an omega. So like there's really a broad nexus of intersections here where like you can be many different combinations and permutations of person. Um, a couple of other terms that you'll often come across, because this is, of course, an erotic speculative genre. This is
Yeah.
often designed around different like reproductive cycles that almost track like menstrual cycles. So the sort of like thrust, forgive the pun, of the plot in many Omegaverse novels revolves around like an Omega's heat. So like a period where they have like intense cramps that like only go away when they mate with an alpha. They are like desperately horny. They're producing a lot of what is called slick, or like basically a fluid that like eases away during mating. And it does have like a sort of reproductive purpose, but in many stories, it's not so much that like people are actually the breeding kink of it all is particularly appealing, but that doesn't mean that it's actually going to result in pregnancy. Um, Heats in some universes can be satisfied by anybody. In some universes, it requires your like fated alpha mate. That's the other thing about Omegaverse is like this is also like a world specific thing. Sometimes there is like forces of fate that pairs certain people, and that's often those like compatibilities are often drawn along the lines of scent. Like, are alphas and omegas scent
Mm.
match? Like, are their scents compatible? Do they like how the other person smells? And like, smell plays a really strong role in designating compatibility in this universe. Which I think has implications, many things
Yeah.
that I'm still thinking about. The other side of heat is rut. So alphas have these like uncontrollable sexual desires when they're proximal to certain omegas, or they might experience it somewhat regularly, again, like a menstrual cycle. And then like during this like heat period, omegas feel the desire to like nest, like build comfortable, warm spaces where like they can ride out this intense period of sexual desire. Um, any questions at this time?
I'm with
Period.
you.
So a little brief
Okay.
history. The first sort of origins of Omegaverse are really, as far as I'm aware, around the Star Trek times. There's an episode called
Oh.
Ponfar where Vulcan males like have to fuck or die.
Oh.
Like that it created the original sort of alpha omega dynamics. Um, this was then complicated by the supernatural fandom. I don't remember what year it was exactly, but there's a whole thing in the supernatural fandom where like the writers are, if you've ever seen the show, like constitutionally incapable of writing a woman.
Yeah.
And the result of that is that these two men, Jared Padalecki's character Sam and Jensen Ackles' character Dean, are like on the road for extended periods of time and they are the only well-written characters. And so people are writing a lot of fanfic about them. The difficulty of this being that they are both Winchesters, they are brothers. And so Wincest was like a huge thing in the supernatural fandom. So kind of as a, I don't know that they intended this necessarily, but like the next character that was actually well written was Castiel, an angel figure who like sort of became a part of the dynamic between Sam and Dean, and thus the Alpha and Omega became Alpha, Beta, Omega. So Castiel is like really responsible for initiating a more complex third dynamic. And if you've seen the show, I was a little perplexed by this, but now I think I understand it. Sam was like always the alpha, or like often the alpha in these fics. Dean was the omega, and Castiel is the beta. So yeah, this is a little bit of just a sketch of the history. There is a lot more in here, but I think this will give you like a gist of like what's going on here. And the other piece of this is also at this stage, really like Omegaverse is a fan fiction construct. Like it's really something that emerged out of fanfiction.net and those forums, like the fandom forums, like the Star Trek fan fiction forums, like even predating the existence of things like AO3.
Hmm.
Um, it was like truly a fixture of fan fiction. Um, However, it did start becoming traditionally public, or not traditionally, but independently published. Like people did start
Right.
profiting off of constructions of these Omegaverse dynamics. Um, of course, today these pairings are not just MM, they can be MF, FF, they can be everything really. There's this like neat and tidy little chart on Wikipedia that's like you can have these genitals and these designations, and you can be like a male uh omega with a uterus. You can be, but here's the thing, that's sort of a gentle suggestion. The real beauty of Omegaverse is that like a lot of these rules are so absurd that they don't even matter. Like they just don't. There
Right.
are alpha submissives, there are omega dominants, there are like alpha males with uteruses, there are alpha females with penis. Like it's truly like
Hmm.
you, it's just you're always remixing. You're a DJ and you are constantly remixing. Like that's what's happening when you write Omegaverse fiction. Um
Love
a lot
that.
of the fandoms where this is particularly popular. Yeah, it's great, right? Like there's a
Yes.
real it. Like there is a sense of like we can be whatever we want. Like it's really, but here's the thing too. Okay, wait, I'm gonna get ahead of myself. There's more on the discourse piece of this.
Okay.
We'll get to
Gotcha.
that.
Okay. Perfect.
Some of the popular fandoms are like Sherlock, Hannibal, Star Wars. Glee was a an interesting one. Doctor Who, Avengers, really everything under the sun. I've read quite a bit of Raylo,
Yeah.
Oh, of
Omegaverse at
course.
this point in my life.
We've all been there.
As of 2022, there were 39,000 fics in AO3 that were Omegaverse tagged. At
Whoa.
this stage, I would be shocked if it wasn't close to double that. Because
Yeah.
it does feel like Omegaverse has hit the mainstream in kind of a big way. And not just because of sort of trad pub works like Bride by Ellie Hazelwood or
Yeah.
My Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, which are both technically speaking shifter romances, like
Yes.
paranormal shifter romances,
Right.
but because both authors are like recognized for their Omegaverse fanfic in the past, there were associations between those books and Omegaverse, and also like certain features of Omegaverse, like nodding that like appeared in these works. Here's the thing, nodding does exist in traditional published romance canon prior to Bride and My Fake Mate. It's
Yeah.
just that like many people don't read books published before 2010, so they wouldn't know that.
Right.
But
Most people can't
in the
read,
contemporary,
and that's fine.
most people can't read. Well,
Yeah.
that's also real. Yeah, most people can't read and don't care to read. So that's also a problem as far as nodding history goes. But
Exactly.
for our purposes, like bringing nodding, which is like when this like sort of inflatable bubble at the base of an alpha penis, I guess, like locks two people together. Sounds unpleasant, kind of a good time to read, to be honest. Um, and then I also posted this TikTok, a screenshot of a TikTok from one of my favorite internet digital organizers and fan fiction aficionados, Omar's big sister. And it says when it's Ramadan, so you can't breed your favorite Omega anymore. Because she's trying to keep it halal in a world where it's very hard to do Omegaverse but halal, I think. So
Yeah.
but I love her and she's really great. And total side note, but she's both extremely funny and skilled at talking about Omegaverse on the internet. And she's like one of the reasons why we like have really fierce advocacy for digital privacy. Like she does some really incredible uh political organizing around digital privacy that is like single-handedly keeping some really oppressive legislation at bay in Congress. Isn't that so exciting?
We
That's so
love.
good.
Period. Okay. Uh I feel like I'm taking a really long time. I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're
I want
doing
to speed
No,
so
through
good.
this.
you're
I'm
Okay,
doing perfect.
so
I'm
locked
locked
in.
in.
gorgeous. Good, good, good. Okay, so here's some of the examples of like trad pub, or not, sorry, self pub, like Kindle Unlimited, Omegaverse
Uh,
work. A big thing that you'll notice is that these dynamics, like there's a lot more like het stuff happening here. Like
Hmm.
yeah,
the I mean the one on the far left, the Alpha's Unexpected Omega by Rebecca James, like that's like a contemporary
yeah.
um Omegaverse, but like a lot of these other ones do feature more MF dynamics. So I'm kind of interested in the fact that like as fan fiction became or moved into the self-pub space, how is it that like MF started to have more like economic cachet in
Yeah.
the reader verse? And like campy covers, like there's like a range of subgenre things going on here, like some small town, some fantasy, some sci-fi, um, and of course, like lots of like oiled up torsos, as you would,
The
as you would.
sci-fi one is crazy.
The sci-fi one, the like spacecraft in the background and the like cybernetic arm are actually taking me out. I really hope you're watching this on video because like you have to look at this cover. It's
Yeah,
truly
Crazy.
it's so special. It's
it
so
does
special.
make me
And the
want to read
like
the book. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, if you do, let me know what you
Yeah.
think. I haven't read it. But I'm extremely curious. I'm extremely curious. Um, yeah. And another piece of this that I think you'll also notice is like race. Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
almost everyone in this is white. I actually can't tell with the third one if he's like really oiled up or like actually a person of color,
Yeah.
which like
Right.
says its own thing. But like
Exactly.
a lot of Omegaverse I've read is like really white.
Yeah.
So that's also something to think about. Not really sure why that is, but gotta call a dynamic out when you see it.
You have to.
Have to. Um, all right.
Oh wait, go
So,
back for one
oh,
second.
yeah, of course.
Alexis B. Osborne. Do you think she did it on purpose? ABO?
Wait, that's so good.
Do you
I
think?
didn't even think about that. That's
Probably.
like a galaxy brain observation, I have to
Thank
say.
you. That is
No,
my
I had no
idea.
idea.
See you guys later. Goodbye. Have a good night.
Wait, I need to investigate that because I'm charmed.
There's no way that that's not a coincidence,
No, I think you're
or
right.
that that is a
The
coincidence.
B period, yeah, it is giving intentional. No, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the other thing about Omegaverse that I find particularly fascinating, and part of the reason why it crossed my radar is
Yeah.
because there was this like huge New York Times article titled "A Feud in Wolf Kink Erotica Raises a Deep Legal Question." And then there was also like a kind of iconic piece from Book Riot called "The Omegaverse Plagiarism Lawsuit 1 Year On." Um,
Right.
Basically, as Omegaverse moved into the self-pub space, Addison Kane, uh, an early sort of self-pub Omegaverse author, sued Zoe Ellis, another Omegaverse author, for copyright infringement for publishing a book with the same premise as hers. And it's a little bit confusing exactly what she found to be so similar that it rose to the level of like an actual lawsuit.
Yeah.
People were like, do you think you own Omegaverse fiction, or like that you own the idea of writing MF Omegaverse fiction?
Right.
And she was like, no, she was following things like beat for beat, but some of the details that she found to be like eerily similar were like they both had somewhat similar conceptualizations of what a beta was in this world, and they were writing MF and they were following sort of similar structures. But the reason that this became quite interesting is because there have been repeated efforts in romance self-publishing for authors to try to copyright uh premises that like they can't really be copywriting. Like there was a
Yeah.
whole thing that people referred to as Cockygate a few years ago, where an author tried to copyright the word cocky in like COCKY, like cocky, in her books. And people were like, well, that's just a word.
It's a
You
word
like
Babe.
I
you
hear.
can't you can't what is it, trademark or copyright? I don't
It's
remember which
probably
one it is.
trademark.
Like you can't trademark that because that's just a word. And she was sort of
Yeah.
arguing that it was like a big part of her brand and like people associated with her. Of course, I can't remember that author at all, which is really telling you how much it was
The brand mattered.
distinct to her and her
Yeah.
work. Yeah. um Ellis, after being sued for copyright infringement, then filed a countersuit for reputational damages and lost revenue. And in the time when this was happening, people were like, oh, how this is ruled will determine how people are able to use the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which is a really seminal piece of IP legislation that like helps us decide what is fair use and what
Yeah.
isn't fair use. I'm not
Hmm.
a lawyer, so I'm doing a really shit job of explaining this, but like it was truly like about to be a landmark case
Hmm.
in like how people can own ideas. Because the piece of it that was also that people also had a lot of difficulty with Addison Kane for doing is like fan fiction did all of this and didn't profit off of it. Like fandom and fan community had been writing and producing work like this for ages in every permutation, every combination,
Hmm.
MF, like with
Hmm.
certain ways of writing beta, so on and so forth, for years and years and years, but had never, obviously no one was like, I'm going to trademark that, because you can't when you're writing about Disney characters, like Disney owned characters like Rey and Kylo Ren, or Harry
Hmm.
Potter or whatever it is.
Hmm.
um so a ruling in Kane's favor would have had massive implications for copyright law and
Yeah.
fan generated material. So like the fan fiction community was like, you don't fucking sue for that. That's crazy. Like you're gonna get us all in trouble for writing stuff that like you have no right or ownership to.
Just because
Right.
you want to
um
profit, just because you want to make some money
uh-huh
off of it.
uh-huh
Crazy.
uh-huh mm-hmm. It's very controversial. I believe there was also like a YouTube video essay by Lindsay Ellis. I'm pretty sure Lindsay Ellis was like sued also for some of the things that she said in that YouTube video essay, which like, look, that's what happens when you speak about active court cases before they're
It is.
resolved. And also like you can only do so much independent journalism like that without like a legal body covering your ass a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hear it's very good. I haven't watched it yet. I need to. But it came up a lot when I was doing research for this.
Mhm.
All right. So just like a brief sketch of some of the things that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So the thing with Omegaverse that I find particularly fascinating is how it treats gender as like
Mhm.
a fluid set of constructions that people do and sometimes don't chafe against. So like there's an Omegaverse novel called I don't know, but it's by Colette Rhodes. I don't remember the exact, maybe it's called like Excess or something, by Colette Rhodes. It's an MF Omegaverse, and the main character spends a lot of time chafing against the fact that she's an Omega. Like she is like corporate accomplished, she's like
Boss
very
babe.
ambitious, she's got all of these like masculine qualities that she like
Mhm.
is tall, she's assertive, she's all of these other things. And yet her Omega designation makes people infantilize her a bit and also like speak to her like her only worth is breeding and reproduction. Like they're really preoccupied with the fact that she doesn't have a mate, that she hasn't settled down with someone. She wears scent blockers constantly so that people aren't scenting her as an Omega. She like suffers through heats unpartnered because she like knows she needs to assuage this need in her, but also sees it as like kind of a weakness. And it had me thinking about sort of, well, first of all, a lot of Omegaverse work is written by trans authors, so there's that. Like
Mhm.
it is objectively an artifact of fan fiction that like, or much of fan fiction is obviously like trans and queer. And like
Mhm.
in particular, I think Omegaverse is a useful tool for exploring the different ways that people can chafe against the roles that are placed on them societally and structurally, while acknowledging that like, or the sort of complex relationship that you can have with the role that you've been designated in a society. Like, how is it that you might be told that this is your purpose, but like really chafe against it? And like, does that necessarily mean that you identify as trans or non-binary? No, not necessarily. But
Hmm.
does it make you question the sort of inevitability of your role, purpose, and
Mhm.
function in a society? Yeah. And I think that is really interesting. Like, even the idea that like the that you could be actively chemically modifying your scent to appear different to others in the world, I think speaks to the kind of modification that trans and cis people do all the time to be perceived differently in a broader world. Um, and then I think there's also the sort of inverse critique of it that like Omegaverse ends up like replicating these like deeply essentialist structures like alpha man,
Yeah.
big, assertive, dominant, rut, uncontrollable sexual urges, omega, submissive, nesting. Like there are images and visions presented that are both like so trad and things that are like, no, I'm experiencing discomfort in ways that like are kind of interesting and odd. And then there's the other piece of it, which is like bodies are whatever we want and
Heck
these
yeah.
worlds will let us do. You can, this is where mpreg comes from, this is where like so many other structures come from, where like bodies can do whatever, be whatever, fuck whoever, like
Yep.
that's also a part of the story, right?
Yeah.
I think the sort of common criticism is that like as Omegaverse moved from fan fiction into self pub, it became straighter and more essentialist, which
Yep.
I think is real. And I also think that sometimes you can kind of go all the way around. Like you can
Mhm.
be so straight and so trad that it's almost like a campy performance of heterosexuality
Yeah.
rather than like the real thing. But I mean, that's the thing too. Like even the real thing in heterosexuality is a series of performances that must be maintained, that must
Right.
match contemporary designs of heterosexuality. And so like how is it that Omegaverse gets to help us think about that? Some of the
Mhm.
really interesting academic scholarship has also been about consent structures and Omegaverse. Like, how
Hmm.
is it that things like the necessity of a sexual urge, like the intense, visceral bodily necessity of a sexual urge, changes people's relationship to the role of sex in their lives? Like,
Hmm.
celibacy is barely an option in a world where like even like an omega is like physically in pain when they aren't having sex during like a heat, and
Mhm.
similarly like pain is on the table if sex isn't involved. Whereas like I think in sort of contemporary culture we have a tendency to think of sex as like a less essential, well like essential but optional part of someone's life. Like you
Yeah. Right.
can be celibate and you're not gonna, I don't know,
Keel
like
over.
go crazy. Yeah. It's not food, it's not water. But consent becomes different when the sort of like biological and social urge for sex is put on the forefront. And of course we've mentioned the race piece of this as
Mhm.
well. And then also like there have been some kind of interesting criticism, I don't know, criticisms, suggestions around Omegaverse as bestiality. I find that to be kind of a low-hanging fruit where like these aren't actually like the New York Times article is like wolf kink sets precedent. This actually has very little to do with wolves. Like
Yeah.
I just think it does. And also
Yeah.
like even some of the original animal theorists who study wolves and like put forth theory about alpha, beta, omega structures in wolf packs have been like, oh, that was like kind of fake. Like that's not actually a thing that happens. And so these are like man-made discourses that like
Yeah.
borrow from other man-made discourses about how gender role and function, gender and role function in wolf packs,
Right.
and then now in this fictional speculative erotic universe. So lots of things going on here. And I think that's really all I had. And I do have references available upon request. There's some really interesting scholarship on consent and Omegaverse that I've read from some independent scholars who work with like the MIT Culture Lab. So if you're
Mm.
curious, let me know. I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
And I'm taking questions at this time.
All I have are claps.
First,
That
we
was
have to
amazing.
Thank
clap.
you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I just have so much to say on this subject.
I think bringing up all those discourses
Hmm.
is a great way to end it because every time I read an Omegaverse, almost all of those discourse questions cross my mind.
Hmm.
Like I
Hmm.
start to chafe against the like trad structures that are being put forth and the like the breeding kink of it all. And I'm like, oh no,
Hmm.
oh, I'm enjoying this, but am I?
Hmm. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But it's also interesting because you're talking about people who take heat suppressants and
Yeah.
like
Right.
are doing all kinds of things to manage pregnancy, or like there are so many ways that people, I think I'm particularly fascinated by the like, how do I chemically modify my body and its
Hmm.
urges into things that allow me to live a life, because
Yeah,
that is a decision that like many people with uteruses are making daily. Like,
Absolutely.
what kinds of chemical and pharmacological interventions can I make so that I am able to move through a world that like doesn't facilitate my well-being?
yeah,
Like,
Mm.
I find it fascinating, sort of the analogy of it all, I think can be quite rich and fruitful and like uncomfortable for sure.
yeah,
And like, I think that discomfort is like a part of its horny potential. Like, I
yes,
think they're
It
two
has to
sides of
be.
the same coin.
yeah,
Yes. I
Hmm.
I really like the points you made, Sandra, about how Omegaverse has changed through its iterations from being in the fanfic sphere into the self-pub sphere and now into
Hmm.
traditional publishing spheres, and uh what aspects of it have to be conceded or have to be changed to make it more palatable uh
Hmm.
to the masses. I think that's so interesting. Um
Yeah.
because yes, like you said, fan fiction is inherently incredibly queer and othered and um just
Yeah.
I want to say odd, but like you know what I mean, with love and respect. Sometimes some of it is a
Yeah.
little odd. Um
No, no, fan fiction is freak stuff, but it's
yeah,
like
yes.
I love it. Like,
Oh yes.
that's the thing. Like, it's not intended to be, or like, I mean, there is plenty of, I'm sure, like extremely normie fan fiction, but
Sure.
it's an artistic mode that is like built from the periphery, often to
Yes.
compensate or like address an absence of queer
Representation.
exploration
Yes.
in other narratives where like groundwork is laid for queer exploration and then never actually happens. Like,
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's so interesting, this idea that like as a as Omegaverse and even just fan fiction in general has gotten more mainstream, or like
Hmm.
when fics are republished as like like I think about Ali Hazelwood things, or I think about like other fanfics that are now being traditionally published and they have to change um aspects of it, what parts of those books are being changed
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
why. I'm like, it's so interesting because they were popular the way they were.
yeah,
Or even
Yeah.
if they weren't popular, they were well loved the way they were.
Well, I think part of it is context setting, right? Like,
Sure.
both
hmm
of you are sort of generally a little familiar with an Omegaverse.
Yeah.
There were people who picked up Bride and like read Nodding for the first time in their lives.
Yeah.
right.
That was the 5,000th book with Nodding that I'd ever read in my life. It
Yeah.
was it was not, and I think fan fiction is able to be almost like more experimental in certain ways. First of all, because the tagging system means that people are able to opt into the level of freak that they want. Second of
Absolutely.
all, because there is a sense of like those appetites are cultivated on steady ground. Like, you understand the rules and
hmm
dynamics of
Yeah.
certain relationships, and this author is playing with like knowns, or like within a cauldron of many knowns, is
Yeah.
able to then sprinkle in more unknowns.
Yeah,
Ab-
Whereas in like a traditionally published novel that you're seeing at Target, that someone like picks up off a shelf and is like, okay, their like basis and knowledge is so much more restricted. Of course, I think self pub, for example, like the fact that self pub tastes are also, I mean, this is also, it's not that there isn't MM or FF
no.
Omegaverse in self pub. For sure there really is. But I do think that like in terms of like what's topping charts,
Yeah.
It's a little bit less so MM and FF. So there is really good MM Omegaverse on Kindle Unlimited and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Or even just like the
Yeah.
idea of like polyamorous, polycule relationships and how Omegaverse
Mhm.
has um brought more conversations around that. And I think that's really interesting. I feel like I've seen a huge shift in the romance sphere as
Mhm.
elements of Omegaverse from the deep, dark parts of fanfic.net
Yeah,
have started becoming more popular. And it's like, if you've had your thumb on the pulse for a while, you're like, oh, I'm not surprised that this is now popular or this
absolutely.
is now whatever. But it's so interesting. It's so, so, so interesting. But
I
thank you.
Yeah.
do think it's fascinating with all the legislation that's currently getting thrown around and like the increase in book bannings that
Uh-huh.
Omegaverse is becoming more and more brought into traditional publishing. Like, I think
Uh-huh.
those two things converging at the same time are fascinating.
Mm,
Well, I think part of the beauty of it is when you sell books the way that Ali Hazelwood has sold books, or I don't know Lana Ferguson's sales numbers quite as much, but like I think those have also been pretty significant. Like
Mhm.
yep.
there's a certain point where a publisher is like, yeah, let her rip. Like
Mhm.
that book is gonna sell itself. It doesn't matter because
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's so talented. She's so skilled.
Yep.
But it's also that like our tendency to see some of this as novel speaks to our shorter memories.
Yeah.
Christine
Right.
Feehan was writing crazy shifter, nodding, this, that, and the other
Yeah.
through the early 2000s. Like
Right.
she was writing books that like she was writing jaguar shifters and cat shifters. She was writing like these like massive sex cults. Like she was writing stuff that like would make a lot of contemporary authors shake in their boots because
Yeah.
like it's so, and she was traditionally published
Yep.
through, I don't remember through who, maybe Avon. I don't remember, but like these were authors who were published traditionally. Nalini Singh published a book with a jaguar shifter, Slave to Sensation, in through Berkeley, like
Yeah.
years and decades ago. Decades ago. It's interesting that like for me it seems like I actually feel like appetites have become more and more and more conservative. And so these two isolated cases feel so exceptional.
Mm,
Whereas there's this whole like storied trad pub history of like bonkers work that is like complete like lost in a lot of contemporary romance reader memory. Like
Yeah.
that's a thing that I just find wild, you know? Like people's appetites have been, and I'm not saying that Christine Fian, I don't know what her sales numbers were either. And I do feel like maybe magnitude, scale, and scope all matter in this. But like,
Right, because now we're seeing consumption and acknowledgement of things existing on a global scale because of social media. Like, there's
sure.
just a very different acknowledgement that stuff is out there where it was a lot easier
Yeah.
for people, like, even a decade ago, to be like, oh, that's on a shelf in Barnes and Noble? Really?
Hmm.
mhm.
But here's the thing too, cost of living was lower, cost of books was lower,
Yeah.
and romance appetites have always been extremely voracious. Like
Yeah.
romance readers were checking out like five, six, seven romance novels a week. They
Yeah.
were and still are, like some of the sort of older school readers were, because you could also fly through these 70,000 word romance novels it like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Janet Daly, I was listening to a friend's whole thing on Janet Daly, one of the like most acclaimed and controversial romance authors in the 80s and 90s. She sold books at rates and numbers beyond like anything that we see right now on a New York Times bestseller list.
Hmm.
Like her sales numbers are things that we literally can't fathom. And so
Right.
there's also that, and the kind of, this is maybe a big structural deviation from what we're really talking about, but like there's also this thing of book sales numbers now are quite unreliable as well.
Yes.
So it's like we don't have great figures, and a lot of people don't have access to things like BookScan and so on and so forth. So
Right.
it's hard to really pin down what appetites are, where they go, and also is like global recognition or influence via the internet the same thing as sales,
Yeah.
and is like producing the spectacle around like, oh, this is a trad pub Omegaverse, the same as people actually reading it, appreciating it, loving it the way that they loved work like Christine Fian's work, you
Right.
know? It's hard to say. It's
Yeah.
complex. Hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
well,
Much to
great
think
job,
about.
Sanj.
Thank you so much.
Whoa, time just jumped and it didn't even look like it at all to you, but to us it's been hours. It's been hours. Whoa. We had to take a hiatus for good and bad things to happen. Um,
Absolutely.
but we are back. We are back to finish our PowerPoint
We're
presentation
so back.
So
exactly where we left off. Not a second to lose.
I think it is my turn. And as you will all see, which is very par for the course for this podcast, when Danielle and I do these like prompted segments,
Mhm.
no boundaries. We we don't tell each other a plan, we don't tell each other a theme, we just say, here's an idea, go forth. Okay, you look now.
Okay.
You can look now.
Gorgeous. It's
Wow, I love
stunning.
the I love the animations and effects. I hope they're through the whole presentation.
I hate to
Me too.
disappoint you. They're not. So today we are going to be creating worlds through clothes 101 for the writer by a very understimulated costume designer.
Yay!
What are my
Yay!
qualifications, you might be asking? I have a BFA in costume, hair, and makeup design, a master's degree in fashion theory and fashion history, and I worked in theatrical costuming for 10 years. I also read a lot and am rarely excited by the use of clothing to create worlds and characters across genres.
Mm.
Why do I care? Great question. Clearly, based on my own history, I think it's pretty clear that I love how clothing can be utilized in storytelling. I've spent 10 years doing it. I would really hope so. There's an incredibly rich history across cultures that can assist in world building, and people are not utilizing it. Or if they are, they're doing it poorly. And I'm tired of being bored or annoyed, or both.
Preach, girl.
So, what has inspired this
Oh,
presentation? I read Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and I had a couple viral videos about what I felt was the villainization of clothes. So, what do I mean when I say that? In this book, the main character's name, I believe, is Saris, and she is in a human realm.
Uh-huh.
She winds up going through a portal and enters a Fey realm and is essentially a prisoner for a significant amount of time. She establishes pretty early on that she is comfortable in pants and a shirt, and the female Fae that's kind of like in charge of her is like, well, this is court, so you have to wear dresses, but they don't fit her. Like she talks about how uncomfortable they are, how uncomfortable she is in the clothes, and she vocalizes several times how uncomfortable she is. As we move forward in the story, she is given a pair of pants and a shirt, but from my recollection, which is quite poor at this point because I don't really like thinking about reading this book, um, it's the only pair of pants and a shirt she is given. And she uses it to train, she uses it to just like be a person. And her love interest is the one kind of controlling her wardrobe. And every day she comes back to her wardrobe after training, and there's just dresses in there. She doesn't even get like a cotton pair of pants and a shirt to lounge around the like castle in. And
Ew.
then they reveal that the way clothes are made in this world is via magic. Like he literally snaps his fingers and she gets a new pair of clothes. So
oh,
beyond the like pick me version of I don't like wearing dresses, I don't like wearing corsets, I'm not like other girls, I did not feel that that's actually what was happening here. I think it was like lightly her overarching thing, but ultimately it really felt like the clothes were trapping the main character. And we just don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be using clothes to and trap people to make them feel uncomfortable,
Mm.
especially when they can be used to create a world and not actually restrict a character or build a character in a way where they're like, I don't like what I'm wearing. Like, that's not fun or engaging. Nobody likes to feel uncomfortable in their clothes. So where do we begin? Whether you are writing fantasy or something set in history or in the present, hang on, I need to move this so that I can see. Um, the history behind culture and clothes gives an incredible context that will allow you to build your world and your characters.
Mm.
Consider where their clothes come from. How do they obtain them? Are they dressed fashionably in society, or do people think their dress is odd? Is there fashion? Is is that part of your world? And what is considered fashionable? Yeah, there
Mm.
we go. So, as a costume designer, when I start creating a character through clothes, I like to think about a bunch of different things in terms of like questions that I can ask to really tease out what these characters are wearing and why they wear them. So, some of the questions that I've asked myself in the past is, do I envision them wearing specific colors? Are they organic or geometric? Like, do they feel like they are linen or a cotton person, or are they in really structured garments? Do they remind you of an animal? A lot of times, that's a really fun question I like to ask myself, especially in theater, because it can really inform how I want a person to move through their clothes. How do they
Mm.
walk, sit, interact with the world around them? And do they have a uniform? Hello? Now, there are some incredible authors doing this already. Two of my favorites are India Holton, who is the author of The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, and H.M. Long, the author of Darkwater Daughter. I am currently in the middle of a case study on the way contemporary historical romance authors write about historical clothing and how our collective memory as society is being shaped by these historical romances. And I started with
Mm.
India's series. So that will be developing as it comes. But I started with her because I'm so fascinated by the way she does her research and what she puts into her books. And something that I found out through a lot of our interviews was it was really great at understanding the social context of the world that she is creating an alternate version of, and is therefore able to then break her own rules when it comes to clothes, especially because a lot of the women in her world exist in a like fashionable part of society. And so she knows how to bring in characters that want to break down those boundaries and how to establish ways in which clothes can be a point of comedy or tension. H.M. Long, I was just rereading Darkwater Daughter, so I want to read this passage from the book, and it pertains to the main character, Mary. She is on a pirate ship. They see a merchant ship off in the distance, and the captain is like, I need you to go change your clothes. We're going to trick these people into thinking that we are from their culture. So, he tells her, go find some pretty marish clothes and paint your eyes, then come back and stay here with me. It'll be a few hours until we close, providing they don't run. She says, I don't look marish, I protested, gesturing to my face. The color of my skin and hair were passable, marish and Adine coming in the same varieties of pale or dark, or blonde or raven-haired. But the structure of my features was classic middle Adine, small nose and mouth, broad cheeks, and round face. You don't have to look Maris, just look like you belong to them, Demery told me and offered his arm. Come, I need to change too. Together, we returned to the main cabin. I locked myself into my smaller room and donned the required clothes, exchanging my short bodice, neckerchief, and outer skirt for a marish style wrap over gown with jewel tones, fur trim, and thick embroidery from wrist to elbow. I removed my hip pads too, narrowing my silhouette, and located a small jar of black eye paint. This is a sentence in the grand scheme of this book, and yet Hannah
Mm.
so quickly uses clothing to establish these cultures, and I
Mhm.
think it is so fascinating because I don't come across it that often, and it is an incredible storytelling tool.
Mhm.
Key takeaways that I hope you take from this very, very short lesson. I would like you all to remember that I have almost 5 years of schooling in this, and this is a free lesson. So this is just The highlights. Lead with intention, showing you have researched certain aspects of your work and have put very little thought into what your characters wear is boring, unless your characters really don't care about their clothes, but you have to make active choices. We can all tell when you do and don't. I wanted to provide some resources for anybody that is maybe wondering what they could use to bolster their use of fashion. There are some incredible fashion historians on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube giving amazing lessons that are incredible resources. You could hire a consultant. Fashion History Timeline, which is available at fashionhistory.fitnyc.edu, is amazing. They have blog posts. They have quite literally a timeline from as early as 1200, I think, if not earlier, to the present. And it is an amazing resource. I use it all the time for my research to double check what I'm saying. And it's a great way to just gain a and it's broken down into decades. It's not even broken down into centuries. So you can be as specific or as broad as you want in your research with them. Museum exhibitions are really great. Fashion history books are really great. There are some new ones constantly being published. There was one recently published specifically on silk and the history of silk. And of course, fashion magazines. So you can always leave them naked. That is an option. But you can't make a comeback from lazy work. Also, it does need to be said, unfortunately, don't be racist. It really should go without saying, but unfortunately does not. That's it.
Well, gorgeous.
Wow. So many thoughts about this. Like,
Yeah.
I have so many feelings about the sartorial choices made in not just historicals, but like across romance, like across subgenre, like the ways that people communicate. Like I think for me, there's a big like age thing that you can also distinguish based on how characters are dressed. Like you can tell a
For
millennial
sure.
writer like that by
Yeah.
the choices that they make in a contemporary romance to like
Mhm.
dress a character in certain clothes. Like it's just
For sure.
very clear. And I think that like I also find that like fashion criticism is some of the most interesting scholarly work on like contemporary culture. I had a chance to see Superfine, the exhibit on
Mhm.
styling black tailoring at the Met with the Costume Institute. And like, holy shit, the like narrative building around clothes in that exhibit. And like, I think I had also previously maybe seen the Catholic Imagination one. And
Oh,
maybe
Heavenly
I've seen
Bodies.
another, yeah, Heavenly Bodies. I might have seen I've seen one other Costume Institute exhibit, and it's like the amount of storytelling that goes into garments like that. It's it's hard not to be like, it's so worth doing, right? Like every author has their own like skills and preferences and like their own unique abilities to communicate something about style.
Yeah.
But when people really care, whether or not that's like accurate or consistent with like some like real version of how dress happens, it's still fascinating. I'm thinking about, have you read Kiss an Angel by Susan Elizabeth Phillips?
No, I started it.
Oh, I love that book so much. I love
I
that book so
know.
much.
I know you
It's
do.
so bonkers. And in the first chapter, the main character, who's this like flighty heiress, like
Yeah.
socialite, who has to be like arranged married to this like really kooky guy, she is like sort of quirky, silly, has like followed her socialite mother around the planet, like partying with celebrities, learning how to speak languages from famous people, and this, that, and the other. And in her first outfit, she's wearing a scallop edge metallic gold lace shift dress with a bit of a halter neck.
That's crazy.
She's wearing a boxy gold like lame jacket, and she's
Yep.
wearing a gladiator gold heel. It's it's so crazy. And like her stepmother is like, are you sure you want to wear that for your wedding? And she's like, yes, I think this is quite conservative.
It's the height
And
of fashion, mom.
the groom was like, this book was also published in what, like the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s. The groom was also like, that's a harebrained excuse for a wedding dress. And
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter that it's fashionable or like that it's cool
Exactly.
or slick or polished. It communicates something about her. Like it
Absolutely.
communicates something about how like kooky she is, like the kind of personality she has, the like way that she approaches her appearance, and like it's one of those things where like it doesn't have to be like quote unquote good. Like they don't have to be the
Yeah.
coolest looking person in the
No.
room,
No,
but it has
but
to be interesting.
it
Yeah.
gives the reader a visualization to
Mhm.
create your story.
Yeah.
Like that's what
Yeah.
we're doing. You want to do storytelling, and part of that is giving your characters personality. And
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
it could be through their intellect, through the choices that they make. But a really tangible way that a reader can latch onto a character is through the choices they make and what they wear.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think it's so interesting that um expressing storytelling through more nuanced means, like rather than telling you exactly how the character feels of some exposition dump, there's like
Hmm.
they're wearing a sweatsuit and they are eating a tub of ice cream, and that tells you enough about what's going on in their life to know that, like, it's using cultural and societal references uh for readers or context clues to be like, oh, this is what's happening. And like, yes, you run the risk of like in 20 years are people going to pick up on that same thing? Probably. um but I think it's so funny when um people what you can tell when people don't take that nuanced step into their world building of like they'd rather just be like the woman is oppressed because corset rather than like actually go into a longer more detailed or more like not thinking your reader's dumb and being like they're wearing this because this means this. You're like, I get it,
Uh-huh.
I can get cultural clues, I know how to read. Hopefully.
Well,
We
you
hope.
can. We don't know about everybody, but yes, you
That's
can.
fair. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Great job, D.
Well, the other piece of this is also like I think we've seen a sort of cultural preoccupation with like classic old money, timeless style. Like this comes up a lot in like wedding trends, but also in
Yeah.
attire, right? Like
Yeah.
people are sort of preoccupied with feminine elegance, whatever the fuck
Yeah.
that means. And like
Yeah.
all of these sort of keywords and codes that are like, don't worry, in 20 years, this won't be irrelevant. Like in
It
20
will.
years, this is still gonna hold up. And I'm like, why is that a bad thing? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
why are we so preoccupied with sort of cultivating aesthetics that are appealing to everyone and therefore appealing to no one? Like,
Hmm.
why? Like, I'm actually hot take. I'm okay with a character who wears a galaxy legging because I think that it tells me something about who they are, how they
Yes.
move through the world,
When they
what
move through the
time and
world.
age they are.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when that meant something about who you were. Like these,
Yeah.
and that matters. And it's also like for me, it's such a cop out. Like it's such a
Yeah.
cop out to produce characters who dress so blandly that like you can't position them in time.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what are you talking about?
we're in this like beige renaissance where everyone's like, I don't want to be
Right.
offensive. I want to like make sure everything is bland and as beige as possible. And
And that people can self-insert.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Or like,
Well, I'm like, that's not what I'm interested in. Like,
no.
I
Hmm.
don't want to just be able to fit any single person into your book because, spoiler alert, as I'm sure all three of us know, that's never what you actually mean or
Hmm.
end up doing. Like,
Oh,
not every single
Yeah.
person on this planet ends up self-inserting themselves.
Uh-huh.
And like, what are you trying to do? Sorry, I cut you off, Danielle.
no, it's okay. I'd rather people do a swing and a miss than like because some we all know those books, right? Where like the characters become so bland that you've read like five romance books in a row and you're like, there's no discernible difference between any of these
Yeah.
characters. And through clothing could be a very simple way to be like, yes, this person's a little different. They're not like other
Yeah.
girls. They wear their old college t-shirt to bed. Crazy. But you know what I mean.
Can I really quickly show you the mood board I made for Daisy's outfit in
Yes,
Kiss an Angel?
yeah.
Um, I can't share. Oh, hold on, let me send a request.
My cat just fell off my windowsill, so you
Oh,
take whatever time you need.
all right, here. Okay, so
I
this
know.
is the shoe. Can you see it?
Yes, that's
A
exactly what I was
gold
picturing.
gladiator heel. this is the dress. I think this is, I don't remember, is this Dior? It's like an old Dior
Yeah,
or
I think
like
so.
something metallic lace scallop hem
Yeah.
dress. This was my vision. And this fugly
Oh my
jacket.
God.
This is
Yep.
what I think she's
Maid
wearing.
of honor. Like matron of the, what's the mother of the bride?
Yeah,
What's
mother
it
of the bride.
called?
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what I think she's wearing. And you know
That's
something? I don't want to wear that ever a day in my life, but I love that Daisy wears that. Like, it tells you so much about her. You're
Yep.
like, oh, she's crazy. Love
Yep.
that.
yeah.
Immediately.
Crazy. Or like I feel like the biggest fashion cultural icon that we've had in past 20 years has to be in Twilight Bella Swan, her long denim skirt.
Absolutely.
Where her long khaki skirt.
Khaki.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't kill me, please.
Come on,
Please.
Danielle.
Um, but something so funny where people, through the context clues of the fashion of this main character, could be like, and Stephanie Meyer is the Mormon
A
queen that she
Mormon.
is, and that we all know it,
Right.
and she doesn't even have to say it. We get it, girls. The girls get it.
The girls get it.
The
Got
girls
it.
freaking get it. Well, good job,
Uh,
D.
Thank you.
yeah, thanks. This gave me a lot to think about.
I'm glad.
Okay, close your eyes. Zodiac signs his books.
Wow. Oh, I'm so
Oh,
excited. Wait, I'm
I
like
can't wait.
the thing about a zodiac sign presentation. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you as you're
No,
doing this. I
please.
can say this later. Well, I was
No,
just gonna
no.
say, like,
Do it.
being the like selfish air sign that I am, I'm immediately like, I want to know mine. I don't give a fuck about anybody else. Like, which is not true.
Oh,
I do
same.
care. I do give a fuck. But I immediately am like, if I need Gemini to be first, like, which is not, I don't, it doesn't need to be. I just, that's like my little lizard brain impulse. Sorry, go on.
That's totally fair. And that's also like we will learn quickly through this presentation that I'm a Pisces. And Pisces is the
Gorge.
12th house, right? So I have to wait until the end of every horoscope or zodiac video to hear mine. And I have no patience. I'm like, let me at it. Okay. I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
This will be biased. Uh, and if I hurt your feelings, look inward at yourself first before you come for me. Here's the first one. Aries,
Period.
the ram. Here's some
Let's
words
see.
that I have with Aries. Leader, overconfident, loud, competitive. So all of those words pushed together, what book are they? The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. I feel like it's very Aries come.
Oh,
I feel like it's very like I'm a
interesting.
little bit better than you. Again, this is very biased, but that is the vibe. I
I
also,
don't,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said I don't disagree.
Okay, good.
Deirdre, what's your sign?
Sagittarius.
Oh, no wonder we get along.
I know.
Gemini Sag forever.
I have so basically when I was doing this presentation um in my like um creative like process, I was like, okay, who do I know who's an Aries? What does that one person, the monolith of the zodiac sign, remind me of? This is what I'm going with. So uh the one person I'm not going to name names, and I won't do this for all the signs, but this one I just think is so funny, is a guy I went to college with, went to musical theater school with, and he played, there was this like viral thing that happened where they they hired actors to pretend to be sheep. And the sheep would be in like, they're in full sheep costumes, and they were like in a pen, and they would just like be sheep, and like they used to have the sheep do things with each other because it was supposed to be educational, but got so much controversy that they had to stop having the sheep pretend to whatever. So every time I think of Aries, I do think about him in his sheep costume, and that's, I don't know, there's something about that that gives Atlas Six to me. Moving on.
Period.
Moving on. Taurus. Older sister vibe. Should probably listen to their advice. Stubborn. Practical. You might be thinking, who could you be thinking of? It's my older sister's a Taurus. And so this is Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell, which is a book she did buy me that I have not read. Or Outliers, Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell, which she also did buy me that I have not read. Or David and Goliath, Dogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants by Malcolm Gladwell that she has bought me and I have not read. So any of those books I think give Taurus vibes. I'm sure they're
That's
great.
so. Can I just say I really admire that she persists in giving you books that she knows you're not going to read.
Because I do the same. I'm like, girl, here's a romance book. And she's like, okay. That's our love language is giving people gifts we know they're not going to like, but we like. That's beautiful.
That's so sweet.
That's
That's
beautiful.
really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll like them when I eventually read them. But now it's just like a meme that I haven't read them. So I'll
Right.
keep going. Okay, next up. Here it is. Sand, here you go. Gemini.
I'm so excited.
Private.
Oh,
Unpredictable.
oh,
Lots to say.
true.
Make their own adventure. My first roommate was a Gemini,
True.
and she was obsessed with this book. Therefore, Geminis are On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
Wait, that's so funny. I've never read Kerouac, but I kind of love that.
My
Like
my only reference
it's
with Jack
saying it's saying on the caption it says the legendary first draft, rougher,
Kerouac.
wilder, and racier than the 1957 edition. Put me in, coach.
Put you
Yeah.
in. The only reference I have for Kerouac, other than my room and my like, we were 18-year-olds living in Toronto on our own for the first time ever. We were like insufferable. But my roommate, Maddie, love her so dearly, made this so much her personality that I'm like, yeah, all Geminis are this now. Um, but there's a song, I think it's a Cardamom and a Kerrigan and Loudermilk song called Run Away With Me, where one of the lyrics is basically they sing about Jack Kerouac, and I was like, it's all musical theater, it's all it's just a whole fantasy vibe. So anyway, that's Gemini.
Amazing.
Love.
Thank you. I'm getting the SSRI sweats right now. I'm like both overwhelmed,
Cheers.
nervous, and a little bit sweaty. Okay, Cancer.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Cancer. Sad. 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 Sad.
Yeah.
You've reached
Yeah.
Sam by Dustin Town. Cancers are
Yeah.
sad. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. Leos.
Real.
Chosen one. Pick me. Jump first. Spotlight. They are like the center of attention, girls. I have a friend who is a Virgo, but lies and tells people that they're a Leo, which I feel like is now my my interpretation of Leo is this Virgo pretending to be a Leo. So in that case,
That
that
is Leo behavior.
it is. It's very like I'm not like other girls. Um, yep. Any questions so far as I go through this?
But I don't know what the book is.
It's Hunger Games.
Oh, okay.
It's the trilogy. It's actually all three. I feel like Leo maybe leans actually more towards J,
Wow.
but I didn't want
Oh,
to disclude the first two, because there's that character growth
yeah.
that I hope most Leos do have. Okay, Virgo. Organized, hard worker, bossy boots. And you might be thinking, what is bossy boots? Bossy boots is what I call kids when they are being little tyrants. I call them you're being bossy boots. Um,
Uh-huh.
because it's the nice way of saying you're being a little tyrant. And Virgos are little tyrants sometimes. And then the attitude of sorry that I'm right. So the book I selected for Virgo, I don't even know if I remember what it is now. Oh yeah, Blood Over Braven by Emma Wang. And so this is why I chose this book. Um, it's the energy of like everyone's been telling you to read this book and you should have read it a long time ago. And Virgos have been
It
telling you
just
for
came
forever.
out.
Yes, it is.
I said it just came out.
I know, but people have been telling me to read it for forever. They're like mostly my sister, who's also a Virgo. What did I say? If you don't agree with what I say, look inward first. I will
Mm,
not be taking critique.
understood. Understood. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Thank
Understood.
you. Thank you. Um, Regardless, it's like one of those you could put in any book here where it's like someone's told you to read this book for forever and you're like, I just like don't want to now that you've told me to do it. I feel like that's someone telling you to do that is very Virgo energy. You refusing to read it is very Danielle energy. Um, two very different things. Okay. Next up, Libra. Balanced. Can't make a choice. Peacekeeper. Fair. We'll put it all together, and what does that spell? Happy Place by Henry. And here's why I
Aw,
chose this one.
I
Because
like this.
this book is like this beautiful balance of a romance, but also this like actual like realistic look on life, but also like not quite sure what she is. She ebbs and flows. But she's very realistic. So that's why I chose this.
Mm.
Also, my mom's a Libra. Next up, Scorpio. Dark, sexy, mysterious, sexy again. Neon Gods by Kitty Robert. Scorpios,
Sexy
I
again. I love that.
sexy again. Scorpios are water signs, much like Pisces are. So often there'll be like Scorpios and Pisces get along really well. And so I feel like internally I'm very attracted to Scorpios because of that. And because I have such great taste, of course, it would be a good book like Neon Gods. Next, Sagittarius. Ready, D? D, D, D,
Yeah,
D,
give it.
D. Aloof, vibe driven, traveler, tries really hard.
Yeah.
E.
Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like all the Sagittariuses in my life are like very vibes. They are like, I'm here for a good time.
Not a long time.
Not a lot. I didn't want to say that. Here for a good time. Um, but yes, maybe you influenced us just a little bit. I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to say, D. All right. Capricorn, stubborn, goal driven, practical, doesn't forgive or forget.
Yeah, my parents are Capricorns. I'm really
Taxes
fascinated
for
by this one.
dummies. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And
Period.
there's nothing more I can really say on that except for it was the
No,
only made
you're
sense.
right.
It was the
You're right.
only thing that made sense. I was gonna do ta Canadian taxes for dummies, but there's something that very I was like, no, it has to be the we assume that without saying it's gonna be American, like we won't say American taxes for dummies, we'll just say taxes and everyone just knows we're talking about America. Feels very Capricorn,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
Also, something about it being 2002 edition
Okay,
also
yeah,
feels,
correct.
yeah,
The
yeah,
fact that it's all paper taxes, yeah. Since
yeah.
when has someone done a paper tax in their life? Not me. Um,
No, I have friends who do mail their taxes in physical. Like yeah, I
Good
know.
for
In this
them.
economy too.
Good for them.
It's sick.
I got a TurboTax. I have to
Period. Me
legally.
too.
Okay,
I upload mine to a little file that my accountant sends me.
that's crazy. Okay, second last, Aquarius. Cooler than me. Does drugs. Has finger tattoos. I don't get you, but I get the idea of you. House of Leaves by Mark E. Tenelswooski.
That's so funny.
Um,
That's so funny.
I've tried so hard to get through this book many times, and I appreciate what it does, but I have to observe the train wreck from afar. I cannot
I've never heard
engage with it for my own peace. Have you heard of House of Leaves?
No.
It's
It's
the
like a famous dude bro like lit fic book
it's
where you can like read it upside down and inside out and backwards and yeah, it's I've never been less interested in something.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like it's kind of like what was that book that I don't know if it was JJ, The Ship of Theseus or whatever. It was like there's a story happening in the columns and like between the people who are reading the
Uh-huh.
book at the same time. Like it gives very that vibe, but it's very like pretentious. Like
I
I'm so
see.
cool, but I'm trying so hard to be cool.
Right.
Because it's also like
Exactly.
the premise of the book is like this was found. This is like this wasn't written. This was just found, and then this guy just published it, and like very found footage horror movie where it's like, no, Cloverfield totally happened. Like this, there was just a Godzilla monster. You guys.
Right.
It gives very that. So anyway, that's Aquarius. All right, Pisces, which I always will write pieces before I write Pisces. It is very hard for me. Perfect. Hot. Emotionally appropriate responses. It girl. New
Wow.
moon. Stephanie Meyer feels like a very Pisces book.
Oh, that's so good.
Like
That's so good. And it's a masterpiece. Well done.
the drama of October, November, December, January will go down in Pisces lore. Like that is the Pisces experience.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
That's really good.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Don't hesitate to ask any questions.
Could I possibly have questions? That was
It
excellent.
was perfect.
Thank you.
No note.
Yeah.
Thank you.
None.
I think my favorite part about Zodiac things is it is always from the perspective of the person making it.
100%.
Yeah. This
Every
was a Pisces' idea of what the other signs
Yeah,
exactly.
are as books.
a delusional Pisces idea. Um, thank you for humoring me. Thank you both for coming with such academically prepared presentations and listening to me do whatever the hell sideshow act was that. Appreciate you. Love you long time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was
Of
such a
course.
delight, and I learned so much.
Me too.
Truly.
Uh,
Wow.
what are you currently reading?
Well,
Oh.
since I just, since it's been out for so long, I guess I'll talk about it. Just been out for years. This is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Readers will know, or listeners will know, that I'm reading this with my family book club, which is my mom and my two sisters. Um,
Oh.
and it's really freaking good, guys. Honestly, it's really freaking good. The girls know that I'm not the biggest fantasy girly, but I feel like I'm in this little like fantasy renaissance right now, where I'm like have the capacity to enjoy fantasy books a little bit more than just my usual romance uh delightness. But the book is about this book has the best opening scene I've read in years. The best first chapter. I think if you read this first chapter and you're not like, I'm shocked and alarmed for you, it is so good. So the story is about Sakona, who is this um she's training to become a high mage, and she's going to be the first high mage female in history to become part of this magistry. And basically their source of magic is that they siphon magic from this other world, using these typewriters, which they actually have little pictures in the beginning of the book, which is really sweet. But it's like these like old typewriter, kind of like steampunky, dark academia vibes, where they like put in coordinates to siphon power and energy, and then it manifests in this world. So she basically becomes the first female to do this, and she's dealing with a lot of sexism in the workplace. And she ends up meeting a janitor who works at this university, who is, his name is Tomil, and he is basically, uh, he is who we follow in the first chapter, where it's his family trying to cross this frozen lake like storm winterland. Um, but there's something called the blight attacking them. And the blight is just like this white light that shoots from the sky and absorbs and just like disintegrates people. So they're like running across and it's just like crazy like it's very bloody and it's very like actually gross. I was like, ew, ew, ew. But it's so he ends up him and his niece are the only two of his people left. Everyone else is deceased passing this crossing. And so he starts to work in this city, and he works as a janitor. And basically, as a joke, these other high magistrate people are like, oh, Sakona, you can have this janitor as your assistant because you're a woman, blah, 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 sexism, blah, 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 whatever, right? So Sakona's like, well, if I were to find out, I'm gonna make him the best assistant ever. So they work together. She teaches him magic. And then we slowly start finding out that maybe what's happening in the Blight is not so random and is maybe more an appropriation of indigenous power and indigenous knowledge that these people have taken, and decided to make their own, right? So there's all these rules about like you can't change this or you can't look into this, blah blah blah. And when Tamil like confronts Sakona about it, she's like, "Well, that's just the way it is. That's in my religion. I can't like look further into this, whatever." And he has her question a lot of it. Um, and it isn't until Sakona basically comes up with this idea of making a window for her to see into this other world, where all up until this point, all of the glass is fogged, so you can't actually see where they're siphoning power from. She makes a window that is clear so she can see through, and her and Tomil see his like ancestral land, his like where all his people are from, where he's like, this is the meadow I grew up in. And as Sakona siphons power, the blight goes down and hits a woman and kills her. So Sakona
Hmm.
now knows she is the perpetrator of this, or she's part of what's been happening to these people. So it's like very political, very like rich writing. It's only 450 pages, so it's like a pretty easy jaunt. It's really freaking good. And now basically for the rest of the book, she has to figure out like does she dismantle everything that she's worked towards and this prestige and this like uh honor that she's gained being the first woman to do this by doing what's right, or does she become complacent in this? It's really freaking good, you guys. And apparently the audiobook on Spotify is also really freaking good.
Hmm.
I love Emma Wong. They
This is
write
my
some of the
first Emma
best.
Long book that I've read.
They
But
write some of the best action sequences I've ever read in my life.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
after reading
I'm not
that,
usually a fantasy girly, but I'm curious about this one.
I'm also not. Like, I'm a very specific fantasy girly, but this is, I think it's a thinker. And I like to think.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What are you reading, Deirdre?
so I famously have not been reading for like a
Mm.
month. I'm slowly rereading Darkwater Daughter, which I brought up earlier. For anybody that has maybe missed me talking about this book a million times over the last 3 years, it follows Mary Firth, who is a storm singer, and Sam Rosser, who is a sooth, which essentially means that when Mary sings, she can control the weather, and Sam can astral plane into this place called the Other and see like magical creatures and other people whose magic is associated with the Other. And Mary's mom is a very famous storm singer who helped bring what is known as the 7 Year Peace. And she is known to be captive on a pirate's ship as his storm singer. So after many a hijinks, Mary ends up on a pirate ship and is trying to go save her mother, or so she thinks. And Sam is a very besotted isn't quite the right word because that's going to put a lot of thoughts in people's heads, but he's intrigued by Mary and is drawn in
Mm.
by her, and she stole something of his. So he's after Mary.
Cheers.
And I like to describe this book as a high seas game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
'Cause there's like solidly three ships that are just like trying to follow each other. And
yeah.
everybody has different agendas. No one really knows whose intentions are good, pure, bad. Like everybody has something that they are after in the end. And the twists are twisty. And the third book comes out in a couple weeks, and I'm really, really, really excited to see what she does. I love Hannah's writing. I think she's an incredible storyteller. She writes some really, really incredible fantasy. And in all of her books, she has what I find to be satisfying romances because I don't go into her books for the romance. And I'm always pleasantly
Uh-huh.
surprised by what I
Yeah.
find. And it is like the true definition of a slow burn. Like you end the first book and you're like, yeah, duh, there's no romance in the first book,
Do they
obviously.
like each other? That's how I ended the
The
first
second book, maybe they do. Uh,
one.
so I've been slowly getting through the audiobook of that, but I've also been listening very slowly to Careless People, the
Mm.
Facebook expose.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Heard
And
about that.
yeah, I'm not totally sold on the audiobook. I think I need to switch to eyeball reading.
Yeah.
But I find it very, very fascinating. So
Ooh. Mm.
I'm excited to read more of that.
I feel like I have not heard about that book at all, and I feel like I should have. I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah. It came out a couple months ago and there was like a whole lawsuit against her from Facebook about it.
Uh-huh.
Um, I can't remember if she won or if it was just kind of like
I think it was
stalled
dismissed,
for
but
a second.
I don't
Uh,
remember.
Whoa, so sick. Why wasn't this on my radar? Thanks, D. Now it
welcome.
is.
Wow.
Wow. So I'm sure I'll talk about it more when I actually get into it and have things to say.
Hmm.
What about you, Sanj? What are you reading?
Um, in classic Gemini fashion, I'm reading 3 to 5 things at one time at this time. So currently, I'm doing a close reread of One Night Is Never Enough by Anne Mallory, which is a historical romance
Okay.
between Charlotte and Roman. He is sort of like a sort of champion of the underworld, like runs a bunch of gaming hells, has a bunch of blackmail and beef with different aristocrats. She is a diamond of the first water.
Oh,
And it is one of my favorite historical romances of all time. I'm doing a close read because I want to write about one of the scenes in the book, but like it's the kind of chemistry that you literally can only describe as electric. Like truly, truly, I just think Anne Mallory is a master of her craft. And there's something about how she weaves these two characters together that I just find to be like kind of remarkable. So I'm reading that in the fiction category. I am also reading an essay collection called All Things Are Too Small by Becca Rothfeld. She's a literary critic, and this is like a collection of essays on uh her ideas on like praising success in a culture that like talks a lot about minimalism and restraint and, good Protestant work ethic and things like that. And I'm loving that as well. I love essay collections like that. I love criticism, um, like cultural criticism like that. I just think it's fascinating. What else am I reading? I'm also picking my way through. Oh my God, hold on. Let me double check my Goodreads real quick so I don't forget something important. Um, those are the big two. I'm also kind of dabbling, uh, like slowly picking my way through The Age of Insecurity by Astra Taylor. I'm
mm.
also slowly reading, like picking my way through this like dystopian romance by Rebecca Quinn. I'm losing steam on that
Oh.
though. It's not really doing what it needs to be doing for me. It just is too much plot.
Mhm.
Like or too much like not romance plot. Like
Yeah,
can we just like get to the kissing, please? I feel
literally.
feel that way
Literally.
often. Oh, and I'm also reading, I'm reading for a book club Discourse on Colonialism by Césaire. So
Cool.
there's that. You know, good range, I would say.
Yeah, no, for real.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Sanj, for coming on the pod. This was an absolute delight. Uh,
Thanks for
our
having
listeners
me.
are not already following you, which I would be shocked if they weren't. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Baskinsuns on most places, or you can read my Substack, which is called Scratch Paper. I'm about town, online, on the web. Uh, Find me
Yeah.
wherever.
Hell yeah.
If you made it to the end of this episode, please head on over to our Instagram and let us know by leaving the
Leave your zodiac sign so I know who I offended.
Here we go. Leave your sign as a as an emoji. You can also do it on YouTube in our YouTube comments. Like I said, I hope you did watch this episode because it was highly visual.
Highly.
Really, really hope you enjoyed it. As always, would love if you would rate, review, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube. We are on all podcast platforms. You can also watch the video on Spotify. So you have so many options and no reason not to be tapped in. You can catch us next week on your favorite podcast platform. If you want to follow us between then, I am at Deirdre Rose Morgan on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Bindery.
I am at DJ Books on TikTok, Instagram, and on Threads.
We will chat to you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.